everyone, welcome to RT3, and this is the next installment of RT3, and with me I have...
You have the impeccable C.C Trainor-Ling at your service.
And I also have...
Of course you cannot deny the magical abilities of Donald Bacon.
Of course.
That's what I said.
Choose your episode. Game of Groans.
Check it out.
Check it out!
This week's episode is Game of Groans, a pun on the TV show and book series Game of Thrones. So the plot here is Russell's dream of going to the Renaissance Fair comes true when Blythe and young me take him, Vinny, and Sunil to the fair being held in downtown City Park. And when the pets decide to sneak off to find some Royal Henry turkey legs, they soon discover trouble is afoot when an old friend informs them of some nefarious activity. Meanwhile, Blythe tries to avoid being seen by Josh Sharp, who is also participating at the fair.
Let's have a look at those positives, shall we? The first positive is the human plot. It's basically Blythe and young me. They go into the Renaissance Fair, and young me, we learn, is afraid of jester hats.
Of all things to be scared of, you choose jester hats. Okay.
Yes, not the whole jester, just the hats.
They're too jingly.
They're like keys.
I think what really got me was when the guy takes off the jester hat, his hair is in the shape of the hat.
That was weird. That was a really funny joke, actually. But yeah, that was I was like, why? And he has a lot of gel or something to keep it like that.
How's he even attached to bells at the end of his hair? Like hair ties? I don't even want to question.
Well, I guess if we were to go by Bleach logic, by looking at Kenpachi Zaraki, with his long spiked up hair and bells, let's not worry about it, let's just enjoy it.
Also, this episode we saw the return of Josh Sharp, and I think the last episode he was in, well, actually, Pet Fest.
Yeah.
But the last main episode he was in was, I think, Rear Window.
Back window.
Back one.
Yeah, so it was really cool to see, Blythe and young me in those outfits, the medieval style thing. But then Josh comes in dressed like Link from The Legend of Zelda, kind of, with these green tights and green tunic kind of thing going on.
And also playing a lute.
His lute playing in the through the fire and flames. Hey, I'm the only one that thinks it would have been really awesome if he was playing through the fire and flames.
I'm sure somebody is going to be making a video of that very, very soon.
Yes, dear fans, please make that.
If they don't, they should.
They should.
Yes, the overall human plot was actually pretty interesting, and it really relates to me, because going through what Blythe and what Josh are going through is exactly what I've gone through when I've gone to certain events that I really like that not many people that I personally know do like. Blythe really liked this medieval stuff, and so does Josh, but they are too embarrassed to really tell anybody about it because it's sort of like a guilty pleasure, which is sort of like me, because I used to go to train shows a lot back in the day, and I was always afraid that someone from my school would actually find me there and then make fun of me because I liked going to train shows. But then I found someone from my school who went to the same show I did, and we actually became really good friends thanks to those little, quote-unquote, guilty pleasures that we both had, and now we're not really that ashamed of it anymore. I'm sure you guys have had similar experiences, right?
Yeah.
Nope, you're a nerd.
You sold me out!
What?
Actually,
I think I've had something like that, but I don't remember. Feem, I think you had something, no?
yeah, at college, actually, when I was first in the LPS fandom and the MLP fandom, I didn't really say much about it. I was like, nope, I don't, because the people in my high school weren't very understanding of me liking ponies and pets. They were all like, no, that's a kid's show, you can't like it. So basically I thought college would be the same, but then I found out my brother had a friend who was actually a brony, so I got to meet other bronies through college, so I was a little bit surprised about that, actually.
Yeah, I guess for myself, going to any anime convention that I can go to, because there's some down here, but where I live, but not as much. There's not many events or things like a Renaissance fair or anything like that that I can attend to down here.
Yeah.
So basically, the human plot taught us, as we already knew, that even if you go to a certain convention or a certain themed fair or anything that you like and not many other people you know like it, you're always bound to run into somebody that you might know who's also attending that same event or con, and then you can actually become more open about your interest in what you like, or their guilty pleasures, if you will, and then you don't have to feel so awkward around the other person, which is exactly how Blythe now feels about Josh.
Yeah, but honestly, I don't know why Blythe should be embarrassed. If I was Josh, I'd be more embarrassed. Did you see how he was dancing?
Yeah, I can see why.
Yeah, he was so into the music, though. Oh, man. Gosh. I was like, man, I feel bad for Josh, I guess, but hey, it's his guilty pleasure. He loves it. At least he's not LARPing. Alright, well, the next positive was the references that were made. Besides the title being Game of Groans, which is a reference to Game of Thrones, there was a little bit of interesting little things here and there, like when Russell does proceed to go after, the bad guy?
Lord Twig.
Lord Twig, who is also another reference to Game of Thrones, with all of his twigs, which he's referencing the bad guy in Game of Thrones, right?
King Joffrey.
Joffrey? Yes, he's referencing King Joffrey. Sits on all the swords, I believe, while this one sits on a bunch of Royal Henrys and twigs.
Well, actually it was twigs, but he actually is hoarding the Royal Henrys for himself.
Yes, but the other reference that I caught, actually rewatching it with my brother, he caught it, was the Monty Python reference. When Russell was with Shivers and he'd proceed forward, and Shivers had 2 coconuts and you'd hit them together to make a horse galloping sounds. That's from Monty Python. That's the first scene, the opening of that movie.
Wow, I didn't even know that. And I used to be a big Monty Python fan.
Oh man, I really wish if they could make more Monty Python references. That would have been awesome.
Definitely.
Let's see. What other references did they make here? Actually, I think those are all the ones I caught, I guess.
Yeah, there just weren't any other ones that I picked up on besides the whole Lord Twig sitting on his throne of twigs, like from Game of Thrones. That's something I caught on.
Yeah, the other one that I caught was how Lord Twig talked. He kind of sounded like the Godfather to me.
Yeah.
Especially with his hand gestures that he would do.
Just a little bit. I kind of thought it was Godfather, but it didn't really come off that way. Maybe if I go back and rewatch it a few times, maybe it'll click, but who knows.
I thought of a reference that I don't think you guys have picked up on, but the dog at the beginning was a reference to Shakespeare.
Really?
Mostly a name, and I guess his characteristics.
You mean Philippe?
Yeah, the dog that looked like Philippe, at least. It was another French spaniel, I think. Yeah, but he was a reference to Shakespeare.
I still love what he said, though. How they said that he chewed the scenery.
And it tastes delicious.
That's a joke that's gonna swoosh over everyone's heads.
Speaking of pets, how about that pet plot, though? You know, with the 3 pets that were actually in this episode.
Yes.
We had our personal favourite of mine, Vinny, and Sunil, and we also had Russell.
We had Russell and Penny for just a fantasy, but that's about it.
Yeah, Penny was not in it very long at all. And I liked the pet plot for the most part, but I like seeing the 3 of the dudes trying to help Shivers out.
And it was pretty cool to have another episode with the guys, I guess, because the last episode that was centered around the guys was, season 1?
I think so, if we're going just by Dumbwaiter, but then there was Sister Story where it was mostly Vinny and Sunil.
And don't forget 8 Arms to Hold You.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That's season 2, right? 8 Arms to Hold You.
So usually once a season we have an episode that's focused mainly on the male pets.
Yeah, but, something I noticed was that Russell's had a couple already in this season alone, a couple of plot-centric around him.
And there's another upcoming one that's centered around Russell as well. So...
Maybe Bacon's right. Maybe he is the favorite.
I knew it.
But I'm hoping we'll at least get a Pepper and a Minka episode. In the whole series, in total, there's not many Pepper and Minka episodes.
But with this plot, it had some good moments. Had some funny jokes, but unfortunately had some padding here and there. You know.
Yeah, I thought it was nice that Shivers returned. I thought Vinny was pretty funny. Although I kind of wish the pets spent a little bit more time with Blythe and then maybe went off, but that's just me.
And that's where we head right into the negatives.
Yes, while the pet plot is a positive, it is also a negative because it's kind of a mixed thing for us right now. Because while they've had some pretty funny moments with the pets and, you know, the old dog food or pet kibble or whatever, but it had a lot of padding, it had a lot of scenes that were kind of didn't go anywhere for a bit.
Yeah. A lot of the pet food thing, I noticed that they didn't want to eat that, yet they ate Henrietta's old pet fish.
100-year-old kibble. Tasted fine to them. Kept eating anyway.
But yeah, that's one little thing I noticed, but then I thought, maybe it's just because it's Twombly. So it has to be good, right?
The ancient Twombly recipe.
It's been passed down from generation to generation.
From Twombly to Twombly.
Twombly to Twombly, you will learn the Henrietta's secret formula. Ravioli, give me the formula.
Plankton.
I'm glad they never had an episode where like someone's trying to steal the formula.
Henrietta's formula. They should do something like that.
Yeah.
The biscuits go like Plankton and start going like, we're gonna steal her formula.
Yeah, but again, with how we're talking about the pet plot right now, it shows that it had its good moments, but there's not a lot to it. And I think that's the major problem I have with this pet plot.
But the pet plot didn't really go anywhere, in my opinion. It just happened. And then it's just, like I said, I think it would have been better if there was more pets. It would have been better if, like, the whole group was there, because it would have made the episode more interesting, but just the three of them, it felt like it needed more.
Well, I guess since you brought up the lack of pets, I'll move on to that negative. That is sort of where this episode sort of fell apart to me. When you only have 3 pets, you can make an episode out of it, you actually could, but when you really take out a lot of the pets, as in like a good majority of them, you kind of take away a lot of potential for, I guess, more great storylines that could have happened in this episode. Just imagine if you actually brought in Zoe, Pepper, Minka, and Penny, and they came to this fair with the boys. You could have had a really interesting collection of stories or, you know, different plot lines for these characters, and maybe we could have had a different pet plot altogether that maybe didn't have to involve Lord Twig, or maybe if it did, we could have made it have a more Game of Thrones feel to it. You know, it's like, you're like, be careful, war is coming, or something like that. You know, something to really reinforce the title pun Game of Groans, Game of Thrones, you know, things like that. Make the pet plot feel like it really, you know, counted for something. Yeah, you know, and really make it like Game of Thrones, where all the pets just die. Well, let's not go in that direction.
It's no stranger to people that Pepper's my favourite pet, but I thought it sort of slightly annoyed me she wasn't there, because in the last episode with Shivers in it, Shivers was in this, Pepper was a major pet in that episode, so it's a shame that she wasn't there to see Shivers again. It did need those extra pets, in my opinion, because we've had episodes with less pets before, like 8 Arms to Hold You, but that also had a guest pet, and it had Blythe, like, in the plot in Central, because I think if less pets in the plot, for it to work, it kind of needs that bit more, like guest pets and things, and it was also, I don't think that one had a B plot, it was just the complete plot with the pets. I guess Vinny's Neil kind of was a bit of a B plot, but they joined together at the end, is what I mean. Well, considering that we've brought up Shivers several times in this video, I guess I'll talk about him, at least as far as his history with the Renaissance Fair goes. Now, in this episode, Shivers states that he looks forward to the Ren Fair every year, so one would assume he's been going to this fair before Blythe's pet project in Season 1. And back at that time, he was just some squirrel who loved hoarding and was, you know, sort of a jerk. Now, to me, this sort of feels a little inconsistent to what we've learned about Shivers in Season 1, and it poses 2 questions in my book. 1.
before changing his hoarding ways, was the Ren Fair the only time of the year where he didn't hoard items from people or pets? And 2, if he hadn't have met Blythe back in Season 1, would he have been the one hoarding those Royal Henrys, among other things, and not Lord Twig? Or possibly be working alongside Twig to hoard said turkey legs?
Well, to answer your questions, for number 1, maybe the fair is something that he likes a lot, so he doesn't really feel like he should take from it, maybe? You know what I mean?
Well,
like, if
yeah.
it's something that he likes and appreciates, he's not gonna, like, do anything bad to it.
I mean, it also maybe that it could also be something that takes his mind off the hoarding. So there's that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and while the questions, the other one that you asked, I can't necessarily answer that one because I'm not sure. If Blythe didn't talk to Shivers, would he be a bad guy in this one, or the antagonist? I don't know. Then again, he still likes the Renaissance Fair from what we've established, so maybe it would still be the same.
Mainly, I just asked these questions because when you thought of Lord Twig as the one who's hoarding all this food, I thought, wait, Shivers used to be a hoarder himself. So what would happen if Blythe never ever met Shivers in the first place, and Pepper and her never converted Shivers to not be a hoarder anymore? He probably would have been the one at that Renaissance Fair hoarding all the food and all the objects that were dropped or, made at that fair.
We'll never know for sure, actually. I'm probably going to say no, since he really likes the fair and he says that he attends it every year. But again, this is a question that is kind of, it's out there. I mean, it'd be like an alternate universe, possibly.
But you mentioned that Blythe helped to turn Shivers around, but that's another thing, because also Pepper didn't really... Well, Pepper wasn't even in this episode. She didn't really speak to him, but neither did Blythe, except at the end. And I was hoping Blythe would speak to Shivers, because that was another major point in the last episode with Shivers. My final thoughts. This episode was good, but going back to what I said last week, I just didn't think it... I think this it wasn't as good as the last few episodes we had this season. And I thought, I feel the lack of pets kind of did that for me, because I like seeing Pepper and the other pets, Minka and Zoe, and it's like, I think there's no reason for them not to be there, is what kind of bugged me a little bit about this episode, because if there was a reason for them not to be there, then it would have made sense, but there was no reason for them not to be there. They could have been there, and it probably wouldn't have changed too much, and it probably would have made the episode much better than what it was. And, well, I guess it was nice to see Shivers come back, even though I felt like he could have probably done more, and he probably could have came in a bit earlier as well. But that's just my thing. With the human plot, relatable, but again, it just felt a little bit like... I guess more could have happened in it as well. I feel this episode was just one of those episodes. It was a good episode, but I felt more could have been done and more could have happened. Like, the more pets added to it. Other than that, it was a decent episode. I'm gonna score this probably one of my lowest ratings so far. I'm gonna score this a 7.5.
For me, Game of Groans, it's sort of a low point in the season as of right now, but I'm sure the series can, bring it right back up from this little hole that they're in right now. Game of Groans, it's not the strongest episode, but I'm definitely not going to hate it. I still really appreciate the overall human plot with Blythe, Youngmi, and Josh. Once again, it tells us, hey, even though you like to do something that you usually wouldn't want to go around bragging to people that you do, don't be afraid to do it, because you never know who might actually be liking it just like you, and hey, you'll find some more common ground with that person. So that's a really good thing. Really loved the references, they were great. The pet plot, yeah, it was alright, but it definitely could have been a little bit better if it had more pets and really didn't, drag on or get padded out. That's what really kind of, bumped the episode down in my book. It was really great to see Shivers again. Him not doing his hoarding was a real step up from season 1 since, he was converted back in that episode. But even with him there, it just wasn't that strong of a pet plot overall. And the episode itself collectively just really isn't to my fancy. So I'll be giving this episode a 7.8 out of 10.
Well, for myself here, this episode was I'll agree with both of you here. The episode was not the best. And this season, it's probably the worst as of right now. But I kind of already knew that it wasn't going to be that good. When I read the synopsis for the episode, I already knew that it was either going to just be okay or meh. Like, there was no way it was going to be great, awesome, or perfect. And if it did, it would have surprised me a lot. I guess with this episode, it's another episode where the human plot seems to be a little bit better than the pet plot, which has been happening recently, at least in this season. Now, I do like the references, and I do like, I am a big fan of the Renaissance and, medieval times and everything. And I like the attire, and I like everything else, like just the feel of it. I like the knights and all of that. And it was cool. I really like that. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to that. I love D&D, and if I could, I'd learn, but, I'm not going to do that. Anyway, so, yeah, with all the references, it just wasn't enough to make this episode a great or an awesome episode. And if it wasn't for some of the padding, and maybe if there was made a song or something that could have boosted this episode up a little bit more, I think I would have really, really liked it a lot. But unfortunately, they did not have that. This episode is more fun to joke around with and riff, but if you're trying to watch it just seriously, it's not going to be as entertaining, I guess, if I could say that. So overall for me, I'm going to give this episode a solid 8 out of 10. It's a really good episode. If you're a big fan of Russell, Vinny, and Sunil, this is probably your episode. If not, you might have a harder time watching this one. Or maybe, I wouldn't say to skip it, because this one does establish a little bit more of a connection with Blythe and Josh. But, no, it's really on you.
Well, everyone, that takes care of Game of Groans. So be sure to tune in next time for our next review of Littlest Pet Shop Season 4, where we will be reviewing Episode 7, The Tiniest Animal Store. So be sure to check it out when it's available. But until next time, this has been Review Team 3, or RT3, and we'll be seeing you next time. Peace out, home slices.
Cheerio, darlings. I'm also looking forward to the next episode, because that's one of the titles that really interested me. But I'll see you guys later.
And of course, pet shoppers, we'll be seeing you in the next episode. So, thanks, and